It was almost like a little spider's web.
Lots of people muttering under their breath, saying, oh, he's not very good with his feet.
I was a bit confused as to why Liverpool didn't say to Szoboszlai, come in and make it a 3.
Lots of people are doing what we were doing a year ago.
Yeah,
so now here we are, leading the way again.
Pep reinventing again. It was a good old-fashioned Christmas tree, this. I mean, we're only in November. I'll bet you've got your Christmas tree up already.
Manchester City beat Liverpool 3-0 to cap Pep Guardiola's 1,000 games celebration against his biggest rival, as a Premier League title race has broken out from nowhere, with Arsenal dropping points away to Sunderland at the weekend. Liverpool are now officially worse than Manchester United, being below them in the league. So it was a great weekend for everyone from Manchester. I'm Will Pugh. That right there is Sun Sports tactical guru Dean Scoggins. This is the Tactics Exposed studio. And Dino, as ever, you have got 5 tantalising, tasty tactical tidbits from that game that fans may or may not have noticed.
Yeah, really interesting. I think this one's interesting for Arsenal fans, for Man United fans, and for those all wondering that Man City might be coming. Okay, here we go. Number 1, what's up, Doc? Doku, what a performance, but slightly different in his approach in this, which was really interesting. Number 2, you know he's my favourite tactical player, Bernardo Silva, and everything that he did to make City tick. Number 3, you can't not mention Erling Haaland, hard to play for, and the title race, as you said, could be on if he stays in this form. Number 4, Life O'Reilly, Nico O'Reilly, one of the Man City youngsters, and really interesting again what Pep has done with his fullbacks. And number 5, the Don, the man they bought in goal, and just simply becoming very, very comfortable in the Man City goal.
Absolutely. Lots of worries, wasn't there, about Donnarumma as well, Dino? So interested to hear what you've got to say about Donnarumma. I've had a little bit of insight, so it's worth sticking around to the end of the video for that one. Look, number 1, Dino, what's up, Doc? Jeremy Doku. He's had sort of mixed reviews since signing for City, hasn't he? Clearly an unbelievable talent, explosive pace, really trick heavy, lots of trickery. I don't even know what word I'm trying to say there.
That was quite tricky to say.
Yeah, exactly. Full of trickery, I think is what I was trying to get to. But he's kind of been quite hot and cold, but in this game, he was absolutely on fire.
Yeah, and one thing that's really interesting is, you know, you've hit the nail on the head about his ability and his pace. I mean, wow, it's frightening to watch up close. And what's really interesting, though, is that this season that Pep Guardiola has used him slightly differently. So we've not done an enormous amount of City on the show this season. So what's really interesting is that you'd think he's just an out-and-out winger, right? Yeah. You think the way he plays, and there have been games, if we go back to last season when we did the Arsenal episode about Man City wanting to stretch Arsenal out wide, and he used Doku and Savinho to do that, hug the touchline. And we'll show Doku's touch map for the season. And looking at it, you think, generic left winger, like, you know, and generic wide man, wants the ball one-on-one with the fullback. Absolutely fine. But in this game, and he's done this a couple of times, Pep, is that what he's got in getting Doku to do is roam a little bit more, come off that touchline, because when you play against a team that's a rigid and have got a rigid back four, Liverpool, we can say, have got that, you know, play with fullbacks without Trent being there. They've got a fullback in Conor Bradley now who plays like a normal right back, okay? So therefore, create indecision. Drift off that touchline, and you know one of my favourite phrases, half space in between that little pocket.
The Brian and Burma occupy no one space.
Yeah, exactly. But what that meant from Doku and Nico O'Reilly, who we'll come back to later, they've developed this really good understanding where one goes in that pocket and the other one goes wide. And where City were getting a lot of joy early on is Doku picking it up in that space. And that's because Liverpool play with a 2-man base. So with Gravenberch and McAllister as those 2 holders, if then Haaland is occupying somewhere in between, and then that means that there's only one midfielder who can really be picking up a Man City midfielder, Doku and Foden sort of hovered around in those 2 spaces, and then, you know, all of a sudden he's taking the ball on the turn and running at you. And also what he did was, it was really, really intelligent when City were deep in possession. He drops back into his own half, obviously, because he's doing his defensive job, but he's not just going, I'm going to mark Conor Bradley. He's giving Conor Bradley a decision to make where he comes inside. And there's a really good grab where Conor Bradley's going like this and almost pointing at him as if to say, I don't know if I need to go there or Salah needs to come in and take him. And that's that indecision that he created. So really clever from Pep. You know that if he hugs the wing, he's sort of out wide and a fullback's going to go inside, who's picking him up.
So fantastic goal, obviously, Dino. Won the penalty as well that Haaland obviously missed, perhaps a little bit more overlooked. Do you feel that those sort of criticisms or suggestions of inconsistency that were aimed at Doku, or have been for most of his City career so far, do you think they were on him, or that Pep's now worked out how to use him in a different way? Is it a tactical thing? Is it a mindset thing?
I think there's definitely a tactical element to it, because we see this with Pep, don't we? We see a player become sort of flavour of the month when he comes in and then drops off a little bit because Pep's wanting him to do something different. Jack Grealish is another example, okay? But then
he never really had that second wind, has
No, he didn't. No, but I mean, I'm sure lots of players would like to have as many Premier League titles as Jack Grealish, and Doku's following suit. But yeah, it would be that he was quite one-dimensional, I think, is the best way to put it when he came in. Now he's a much more multifunctional player where he can do those two different jobs, and he's learning as he goes. And when you've got that pace, and that ability to beat a player 1v1. So to your point there, yeah, we saw both sides of it. When he won the penalty, he's beaten his man from the wing, okay? Got a little bit fortunate with the ricochet, and Konate, the less said about that, the better. And then the other side of it was when he scored his goal, which was obviously fantastic, we see Nico O'Reilly taking that wing space, Doku being in that inside pocket, as I said, and I've got to mention Salah, sorry. This is one of the things that we've talked about with Liverpool quite a lot. He's a passenger defensively, and they've got away with that at times before.
It did work from last season, didn't it?
It did, yeah, but teams have now worked it out. They've got to do something about it, where we'll see the grab again where Doku is central and quite close to Conor Bradley. Salah is with Nico O'Reilly. Nico O'Reilly goes and Salah doesn't go with him, which means Conor Bradley has to go from where he is with Doku over to Nico O'Reilly. Nico O'Reilly gives it to Doku in the inside pocket, little trick, and obviously fantastic finish. And again, Konate doesn't do very much, but look, let's not take away from the finish. So Liverpool have got to work that out, and that was something that I think Pep has worked on with Doku and O'Reilly. Of look, Gvardiol can come across and pick up Salah. That can free Nico O'Reilly, and that means that Conor Bradley's got to pick up Nico O'Reilly, and that leaves Doku as the man in the space to hurt them, and hurt them he did.
Just quickly then, Dino, before we move on to one of both of our favourite Premier League players in Bernardo Silva in point number 2, before we do that, what is the way that Liverpool should have defended against Doku, easy in hindsight, or teams who have got City over the next few weeks going, blimey, how on earth do we deal with that guy alongside everyone else? What's the way of sort of neutralising what Doku does and what Pep's having him do?
Well, I think the change there, or you've got two.
What should Liverpool have done?
Yeah, you've got two things. You've either got to have a right-hand side winger who's going to work exceedingly hard going back the other way. And look, I completely understand why they wouldn't do that with Salah, because like Brian and Burmo, as you mentioned, and a little bit like Erling Haaland or whatever, you want your top player hurting teams going the other way. So you almost take defensive responsibility off them a little bit, right?
That feels fine against, and I use this term sort of guidedly, but lesser teams. That feels okay. But against Man City,
absolutely,
they've got 11 players who can hurt you.
Yeah, but what I would have said in this is that the way Slot set them up, he's sort of gone back to basics the last couple of weeks after that horrible run they had. And quite rightly, so McAllister and Gravenberch with Szoboszlai in front, and that meant Wirtz played from the left and Salah from the right, and obviously one of the two, multi-million-pound strikers up front. But when this was happening in game, I was a bit confused as to why Liverpool didn't say to Szoboszlai, come in and make it a 3 and drop in as a 3, because then if you've got Gravenberch, McAllister and Szoboszlai's then occupying that Doku space, City might have had to go, it's too crowded in there, let's try something else. And they didn't really do that until half-time when they were already 2 down. Right,
fair enough. Coming then, Dino, Bernardo Silva. This is a man who has played more of Pep Guardiola's 1,000 games in charge than any other player. That stat, to be fair, you go that to me. I'm going to give you credit for that.
But I think I heard it on the radio, to be fair.
Don't tell anyone that. But an amazing stat, isn't it? And again, that doesn't happen by accident. There's been a couple of periods where it looked like he might leave City, but this is a man who Pep Guardiola values hugely, and every single game, particularly for the football purists, he shows his value to this great club.
Yeah, it's really interesting one, isn't it? Because he is a sensational footballer. I reckon if you ask the Man City fans to pick their greatest 11 under Guardiola, would he be in it? There's David Silva to think about. There's Aguero to think about. There's those type of level of players. If you ask Pep Guardiola, 100% he's in, because whatever.
Well, the stats tell the story.
Absolutely, yeah. But whatever position they play him, whatever setup they go in, however tactical they want to be, whatever it works out, they just put him in. I always go back to the game at Arsenal when they won the title 2 years ago, when they went to the Emirates, and Arsenal were phenomenal. But then he moved Bernardo Silva to play almost like right wing. Yeah. And it was just because what he wanted to do was pin the fullback back and then get everyone to play off him from that side, and he turns the game around on its head. But in this, what they did, it was a good old-fashioned Christmas tree, this. I mean, we're only in November. I bet you've got your Christmas tree up already. You're the sort to have your tree up
it's my birthday this week, actually, Dino. Once my birthday's out of the way, then we switch focus.
Okay,
yeah. What are you getting me, by the way?
Yeah, I'll think about it. Maybe a little elf to go on your tree. So it was a good old-fashioned 4-3-2-1, okay? And what it meant was that he then was the flexible one in that. So look, that's 4-3-2-1 out of possession, okay? Obviously Haaland up top, and then as I said, Doku and Foden were in those two positions ahead, and then they've got Nico Gonzalez at the base, and then Bernardo Silva and Cherki as those two. I don't think Cherki can play in that position without Bernardo Silva with him, because what it meant was if Cherki dropped deep to receive the ball, which he did in other occasions, that guy there realises it's happened. He goes into the attacking three. If Cherki's gone with the ball or gone to join Doku and Foden, he drops in and sits in and says to Nico Gonzalez, don't worry, you've always got one person next to you. But what City did incredibly cleverly, because of this guy's ability to read the game, it was almost like a little spider's web with Erling Haaland at the epicentre of it, okay? So they get really close to Erling Haaland when the ball goes in there, which sucks the Liverpool midfield in. And remember, Liverpool have only got 2, maybe 3 if Szoboszlai's dropped in there. Man City have got 4 or 5. They make everybody from Liverpool come in, and then they spring the web from there. So they go into the middle around Haaland. Bernardo Silva reads the game. Should he be in there, or should he be the one that comes out to play the ball? And then they explode. And then they've got the fullbacks going down the wings. They've got Doku going one way. They've got Foden going the other. And then they've got that big guy going down the middle. So that takes some stopping, doesn't it, when that happens?
Absolutely. What is it that's so special about Bernardo's ability, Dino, to just explain perhaps more how difficult it is to adapt to all of those different things? I think one thing that hopefully we're doing on Tactics Exposed every single week is demonstrating how much, as well as being exemplary high-level athletes, how much intelligence is required of a Premier League football player, and how much, similar to what we see in NFL, where they're studying all these different plays. How difficult is it to absorb and then execute so many different approaches, particularly under Pep, that Bernardo Silva does?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you brought up NFL there, because I actually said this to my son yesterday. It's like he's special teams. Right. He's the one where, look, you can say to Doku, I want you to pick up that inside space. And, if Nico O'Reilly goes up the outside of you, you're inside. If the game opens up, you go wide. It's really just one instruction, one thing or the other, okay? What they're saying to this guy, because he's so intelligent, elite level intelligence, is if Doku goes there, you go there. If Haaland goes there, you go there. If Cherki goes there, you go there. So he's taking 4, 5, 6 pieces of that. And then, as you mentioned, I really think that these players don't get enough credit at times for the speed at which they make their decisions. Quite. And, you and I are fortunate enough to watch Premier League, games close up very often.
I watch West Ham.
Yeah, all right. Almost
fortunate might be strong in it.
But you know what I mean? They are making in-game decisions based on information they've worked on for maybe 2 days. And they're making those decisions at that speed. And for me, he's the best in the Premier League tactically.
Yeah, well, that's what I find really interesting. When we talk, there are a few occasions every now and then where I kind of, you explain something in your excellent, intriguing manner that you do, and I sort of scowl at you and go, come on, Dino, like I learnt that in under 8s, you cover someone's space when they go. And like you'll say, it's the speed at which they're doing it, and they're also making 3 other decisions at the same time, which makes it so impressive. Right, Dino, talking of impressive, point number 3, Erling Haaland, Hull to play for, title race back on, thanks in no small part whatsoever to this man, goal machine.
Just looking at that.
Look at those legs, like racehorses. Goal machine, Erling Haaland, what a man. City fans love him. He just carries on, doesn't he, like the metronome.
Yeah, I almost feel like, when we were discussing the show, it's almost like, do we bother mentioning Haaland?
It's just Haaland's good again.
It's just incredible. The numbers are off the chart. You know, this is, I think I said in the pre-show, like, you know, this is like Mbappe in Ligue 1, but against Premier League defenders. The numbers are off the scale, and we shouldn't overlook him. We shouldn't be ignoring what's going on. But so I mentioned the web there, right? Because the centre of the web, and then they break out from there. But the other thing that he does, and you know, this walking metric that people are talking about at the moment, is he walks defences out of position. It's remarkable because of that aura he's now got. So we'll just start with the Nico O'Reilly goal to begin with. We'll come back to the Nico Gonzalez goal. We'll come back to his goal in a minute. But what happens is when the ball goes out wide, is that he just walks into sort of a penalty spot position, and then he takes a couple of steps back, and all the Liverpool defence go, "Oh, Haaland." So they all drop into that area, which opens up this space around the edge of the box. And all City really do is shift it into a space where one of them's going to shoot. They don't really cross it that often, Man City. Right. You know, they are effective when they do because they've got that guy in the middle. But they'll only cross it when there's a real position for him to attack. If a defence has dropped deep, they don't just sling it in there. They recycle and go again. Yeah. You know, and that's, again, a very good off-the-training-ground thing. But, you know, look, Ekitike should get out quicker to Nico Gonzalez and not turn his back. I'm not sure what Virgil van Dijk does, where he doesn't react. He just sort of throws a heel at it, you know. And really, if he's in a position, he should just block that with his foot. But yeah, again, let's not take away from Man City being clever, moving the ball around, pushing the defence back, and leaving that space in front. And he deserves a lot of credit for that because that's what he creates. And then his goal, I mean, look, he gets a bit of luck because Konate should deal with it really, but it sort of flicks onto Haaland's head. But we should point out that goal started in Manchester City's corner with Nico O'Reilly. They are, I will show the grab of it. How do they get out of there and score? Liverpool don't touch the ball again. There's 20 passes and every single Manchester City outfield player touches it. And again, to go back to the crossing thing, he goes into the box, Haaland, when Matheus Nunes gets the ball for the first time. But Matheus Nunes doesn't cross it because there's 3 defenders there to Haaland. Recycles possession, few more players have a touch, then it goes wide. City get 3 or 4 players in the box to occupy the other defenders, and then he attacks it. So look, I mean, and then look, we won't talk about the penalty, great save from Ahmedashvili, but it's just an ongoing threat. And what I think is a worry for Arsenal, for all the other teams who have got, you know, top 4 aspirations, is that not only is Haaland keeping doing it, but now Manchester City are working out even more ways to play off Haaland, as well as the sort of now, you know, obligatory Haaland goal every week.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting what you say about aura as well, Dino, because Konate, who hasn't covered himself in glory either in this game or the whole season, quite frankly, just the fact that he knows Haaland's behind him has got to get into his head. Absolutely. And you go, well, head that away, mate. Yeah. But knowing he's behind him, the physical presence he is, but he is a tactical genius as well, isn't he? Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. And you see, even with the cross, Haaland could run in front of Konate in that position if he wanted to, but he doesn't. He picks up the sort of, the unseen area, the blind spot. Very good. Yeah, that's exactly it. Because Konate then is thinking, can I head it back where it's come from? Because if I think I'm going that way, Haaland's going to smash me from behind. And in that scenario, he makes the decision to flick, and really, he doesn't know where Haaland is. No. And that's the aura that he brings.
Right. Dino, this could have been one of 2 Nicos here. Gonzalez, we've gone with O'Reilly, probably because it works a little bit better for the title. Life O'Reilly, Dino, point number 4. City's midfield, this man, as well as Nico Gonzalez, had an absolutely sensational game.
Yeah, he's really exciting, isn't he? We did an episode on him in the Bournemouth game last year. And we said in that, you know, I think you actually said this, I'm not going to take the credit myself, was about how he looks natural as a left back. You know, he grew up as a 10, you know, but because he's left-footed and and he's so good on the ball, obviously, he plays for a Pep Guardiola Manchester City team. He wouldn't be in it unless he was. But he just looks natural. And he's big, he's physical, and look, he did Salah have a kick? Like, you know, he did really well in defensive positions against him. But the point I want to make tactically about this is that I think there was a lot to be said about inverted fullbacks in the last few seasons with Pep Guardiola and all those managers who have followed suit. And I'm not going to say copied Pep Guardiola, but they've used that tactical style to make their extra man going forward.
Yeah.
So now Man City have reset. They've gone, okay, lots of people are packing midfields with fullbacks. Where's now the space? The space is out wide.
Lots of people are doing what we were doing a year ago.
Yeah,
so now here we are, leading the way again.
Pep reinventing again. And, we talked about Diet Pep a couple of weeks ago, and maybe he'll copy this in a couple of weeks' time.
Enzo Maresca, you mean?
Yeah, I do mean Enzo Maresca there,
Right,
yeah. But if we show that, I'll show the touch maps of Nico O'Reilly and Mateus Nunes. And I've got to say, by the way, I'm gonna go, I'm sorry, Mateus Nunes, because I said there's no way in a million years he's a fullback. His improvement has been massive. But maybe part of that is down to the fact that now Pep is just saying play as a fullback and not do the inversion. He's now got a couple of players, or 3 or 4 players, who can play in those positions. When he wants someone to invert for a tactical reason, he'll pick Rico Lewis. But when he wants them to play as fullbacks, these two have been really good in recent weeks. So they basically just go up and down the lines, and that's really what it is. A couple of times,
traditional.
Yeah, a couple of times Nico O'Reilly will see Doku go wide, as I mentioned, and he'll go up the inside. And then a couple of times Mateus Nunes will see Bernardo Silva pick up an area and go, okay, I won't go in there, because if Bernardo's there, he's right, and I'll just stay. But both of them have kept it simple. They give the ball players the ball. They pick up the space so that they're the out ball. And obviously for Doku's goal, Nico O'Reilly sees the space, goes for it, leaves Salah behind, and does that. So it's a change from Pep, but also he's got to be comfortable with the players that are doing it. And yeah, they're sort of simple genius, I suppose is the way to put it. Back to basics, play as proper fullbacks, as Liverpool do, to be fair. And he knew in that game that if he could manipulate it 2v1 against the Liverpool fullbacks by using Foden and Doku, that these two would have a good afternoon, and they really did.
Is it the end then, briefly, Dino, before we move on, of the inverted fullback at the Etihad?
Oh, I think if we were very reactive and said, it's the end of the inverted fullback, I don't think so, no. I think if they play against a team who plays like 5 at the back, a team that comes with maybe wing-backs, then in that sense, wing-back v full-back doesn't quite fit Pep's mantra, and then maybe Rico Lewis would go in there. But yeah, it's happening less and less often when you watch Pep Guardiola teams, and it's just he's now watching what other teams do and going, I'll adapt.
Yeah, absolutely. Dino, Gianluigi Donnarumma, point number 5, the Don, only one name for it. This is a man who, when he came into Manchester City, lots of people muttering under their breath, enormous wages saying, he's not very good with his feet, he's a great shot stopper, but will he slot in to Pep's team? Has anyone spoken about that since?
No. And has anyone really spoken about him? And isn't that the ultimate compliment for a goalkeeper? Like, you only notice goalkeepers when they make errors or worldy saves. And look, he does make good saves. He's made a reasonable number. But when you play for a team like Man City, it's concentration, isn't it?
He's like the Haaland of goalkeepers, in as much as all of the saves he makes, people just go, oh yeah.
And his arms are like Haaland's legs, right? Look at them. I mean, they're massive. It's like the wingspan. Imagine going through one-on-one, you just think, nah.
Yeah, whatever, mate.
I'm not going to score there, am I? But yeah, one thing I wanted to pick out, look, the saves kind of go unsaid, right? He's just a top
That's what
class.
You're paying those wages for.
Absolutely, that's your job, right? He's a top class shot stopper. But you're absolutely right. And the reason I wanted to pull it out is just the passing thing. It's a bit like Senna Lamans at Manchester United, where he's just been simple. It's like, everyone can talk about I'm not as good as with my feet as Ederson, but I'm not being funny. Half the Premier League's holding midfield players aren't as good with their feet as Ederson. Yeah. So he's not Ederson. And as Pep said early on, he's not going to be Ederson. He's going to hopefully make those match-winning saves when you're 2-1 up or whatever. But the rest of the time, well, the rest of the time, we've got 10 players who can play football, and it's not to say he's bad with his feet, and what I like what he's doing, he's just keeping it simple, and it's another reason why I think that Guardiola has been sort of preferred in that centre-back role, and obviously Diaz plays, and another reason why the fullbacks are playing more like fullbacks, because then you've got sort of the simplicity of fullback one side, fullback the other, 2 centre-backs coming for it, and 3 midfield players who can have the ball to feet. If he's getting pressed, and he looks up and it's 5v5, over the top, Haaland. No problem. And if they then sit off, I'll give it to Guardiola.
Yeah.
I'll give it to Diaz. I'll give it to one of the fullbacks. He's just keeping it simple. He's not overcomplicating anything. And, you know, so far, no real mistakes with his feet. You know, after when he signed and, you know, we saw James Trafford get robbed by Tottenham in the area, Man City haven't seen any of that since then. Keep it simple, do your job, be the goalkeeper. And Man City, by the way, have got 10 world-class football players on the ball, so give it to them.
This feels, again, Dino, like one of those instances where it's the sort of thing you learn at Sunday League football when you're a kid, if you're in goal. If you're getting under pressure, go along.
Just go.
If not, just knock it. It doesn't sound that complicated, but in this day and age, particularly with some of the philosophy managers that we have in the league, sometimes people need telling.
Yeah, and look, it depends on the goalkeeper and depends on your tactical setup. Sometimes, like, you know you're going to play against a low block. And so the goalkeeper becomes almost an extra body part of the back four. So you're trying to drag a striker or a winger out of a position that you can knock round, and then you've got an extra body going forward. I get it. But Manchester City, you know, if they need that from a tactical sense, then they're really struggling. You know, it's that most teams are going to sit off against Manchester City. Most teams are going to drop into their own half, and then you unpick them there. And they've just sort of, the last few weeks, eliminated a part of their game that was becoming dangerous. So be safe and let your footballers do the football.
Nice one, Dino. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Tactics Exposed. No team talk this Thursday as usual, given the international break. But if you fancy it, why not go back on the Tactics Exposed playlist on the Sunsport YouTube channel. Make sure you are subscribed and have a look at some of the videos in there for a little bit of international break watching.